Yeah. Mm. Mm. Mm.
There might be around the back. Yeah, just go in a circle. Yeah, there's 70.
Hello?
Did we do it?
Yeah, I think we did it.
I've been watching these short live clips of you in my email on Google Plus for the past couple minutes. So I was talking to my computer and you weren't responding.
Oh yeah, it's my first time doing a Hangout, so just sort of getting the
That's
hang of
okay.
it.
There you go. I'm sure we're not the only ones that have gone through this.
Yeah. Well, it's great to, meet you virtually. And
Yeah.
this is going to be recording. I'm going to edit it, and then it's going to be posted on YouTube.
Okay.
So I guess we can just sort of start. Maybe you could tell people a little bit about what you do, what crowdfunding strategy is. and start there.
Okay. So I run a crowdfunding consultancy, and really essentially what we are a group of people with backgrounds in business and marketing, social media, product development, graphic design, and we provide services to help people learn about crowdfunding. What are the different types of crowdfunding, which type is right for their particular project, and then also help them build and run campaigns. So we've worked on over 40 different campaigns over the past couple of years, and have helped to raise over $500,000, and are just really passionate about helping people take advantage of this great capital raising tool.
That's incredible. Those are great numbers.
Thank you.
Do you guys focus on a specifically type of category, or is it campaigns that spread across a bunch of different categories?
It's across a variety of industries. We haven't actually done a lot in the sweet spot of crowdfunding, which I think is really kind of the product design tech product space. Mm-hmm. We've done quite a bit with musicians, writers. We do nonprofit work. We are actually starting to work with a bicycle parts-focused company in Europe right now. So we're pretty much across the board. A lot of the processes and the best practices can go across the different industries. They can apply across the different industries. A lot of times we look for our clients to bring the industry expertise to us, and then we work with that to create the best campaign.
Okay, I see. And you guys work on a particular platform like Kickstarter or Indiegogo, or have you used several different types?
We are not biased to a particular platform. So how we present ourselves is really that we are experts in crowdfunding across the board. So again, if you want to do rewards crowdfunding, or you want to do debt or equity or donations, our job is to know about the different platforms and recommend the best platform for your particular campaign.
Okay, I see. Well, that's great. So you guys have had a lot of experience with different types of categories, different platforms, different projects. What are sort of some common mistakes that when creators are coming to approach you, wanting to do a crowdfunding campaign, that you tend to see across?
Sure. A lot of times the big mistakes tend to be in the pre-launch phase. It's the preparation of the campaign. It's even the vetting of the idea. So I would say getting out in front of people and talking to them about your idea from way before you're even starting to pull together a campaign video or anything like that. But how are people reacting to it? Do they get it? So the idea itself, testing that out. Secondly, testing out the actual messaging. Well, how do you talk to people about it? When you describe your product or your album or book or whatever it is, do people get frustrated? Do they lose focus? Do they become disinterested? So testing out your messaging is the second thing. And then the third thing is actually figuring out who to talk to. So who is your target audience? So not everybody is going to care about every campaign. That's natural. So figuring out who are the people that are most likely interested. Are they people, if you're an artist, there are people who tend to hang out in forums where people are talking about music, and maybe it's specifically folk music or jazz or whatever is most relevant to that. Maybe it's finding up-and-coming artists. So getting in front of people to test out your idea and your messaging in front of people who actually care or are relevant to your idea. I would spend a lot of time on that. A lot of people do not do that up front enough.
And in the pre-launch phase, how much time do you typically recommend that a creator begin planning for that period and begin, getting a sounding board on the idea, beginning to develop a list of people that they can reach out to? How long do you usually recommend before launch?
So our overall recommendation, so if we're putting together, for example, a proposal for someone, and we always provide, okay, here's a recommended time frame, and here's our standard kind of recommendation for a campaign. 60 days spent in preparation, 45 days spent on the campaign itself, actually after it's launched, so 45 days with a live campaign. Now, if you told me that you wanted to raise $75,000, $100,000 or more, I would likely spend a bit more time up front in the preparation. In addition, if you told me that you were in certain industries, I would recommend that you spend more or less time up front. For example, if you were developing an app or some type of game, I would highly recommend spending the time testing up front. They're very competitive industries. If you're not already in that industry, how do you get in and start developing the connections up front? That will be so much more critical dependent on which industry you're in.
Sort of branching off of that, so there are a lot of creators launching campaigns in different categories. And
yeah.
At least from what I've noticed, whether you're going to crowdfunding site like Kickstarter or Indiegogo, usually there's a little bit of a community surrounding the platform. And some campaigns will receive more donations or pledges from that community than others.
Sure.
Do you see any major differences between, say, music and publishing, or the different categories that your team has worked with, and any sort of social networks that they should specifically focus on during the launch phase of the campaign there?
So in regard to the different categories, you're saying what are the followings that are on the different platforms already, like the differences between them?
Or even if a creator is a musician versus a publisher, how will that impact, the marketing or the preparation phase? Is it any different between those two categories?
Yeah, I mean, there are similarities in regard to just getting your idea in front of people who care and getting in front of the influencers, right? Getting in front of people who are influencers within that industry that have a following of people that are already interested in your topic. That's something you would do for both areas, right? For pretty much any area. Really, what I find more of a difference between, say, doing a product versus, say, if you're funding a book, is really the content that's shared. Product-focused campaigns are very much about showing that product. People want to see it. There's something tangible there. They want to see how it works. It reminds me of, Kickstarter's the requirement about having a prototype for products, right? Which you appreciate that, right? Because people want to know what they're funding. Versus a book, it can be much more difficult, especially if it's not a photography book or a graphic novel. Then if you are writing fiction, how are you going to express to people through a video and get them engaged visually? So that's much more about the author actually expressing themselves and their idea, their creativity to the audience, oftentimes just speaking to the camera, maybe showing the cover of the book or showing inspiration from other areas of the book. And another big difference is actually if you're creating something tangible. So this could be for a photography book or it could be for designing a product, but actually showing the process of you making it. I always think that's such a valuable piece of a video to show people that you're credible. Especially like if you do woodworking. Actually show yourself in the shop building the piece. I think come across very well. It builds trust. It shows people that it helps people appreciate the art of what you do, the time that it takes. Again, that's something that you will do if you're creating something more tangible versus if you're creating, again, a fictional book. Then it'll be much more about the author themselves and their inspiration.
Okay, I see. Before we move on to the sort of the management of the campaign, I just have one more question on the launch phase.
Yeah.
You have a lot of people, reading in the news about Kickstarter campaigns, raising millions of dollars from thousands of backers, many of whom some come from news stories, some come from the actual platform. What do you usually advise as setting for realistic expectations? How much of a campaign's fund should come from the individual social network? How much should they expect to come from their marketing efforts? And how much should come from the actual platform itself of interested backers that are just looking through different projects?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some really good data out there that a lot of us in the field follow, such as that 30% number, right? So 30% of your funds you should expect to develop within your first week, and really that's going to come primarily from people that you already know. Now, those people that you already know could be people that you've gone out into the market and you got in front of your target audience before you launch your campaign, and you've already gotten them excited about it, and you've said, hey, I'm going to launch this campaign. So you could be building your audience well before. It doesn't just have to be your friends and family, but building potential customers well before you launch your campaign. That should be a target for everyone. We know that the majority of campaigns that are successful are hitting that 30% within their first week. So we always say, well, how can we line up that 30% based on the people that we know or that we built up before that campaign? That's a really good target. Another good kind of equation that we use is, so we know that the average amount that is pledged across campaigns, rewards campaigns, is $25. So if you take your amount, let's say it's $10,000 that you want to raise, and you divide that by $25, that gives you 400 people that need to pledge to your campaign. Okay, so keep that number in mind. Another data point that we know is approximately 10% of the people that you reach out to will actually give to your campaign. So if we do the math on the 400, that's 4,000 people that we need to get our story into their hands, our campaign into their hands, so that we can generate $10,000. So if you think about that, you can say, well, I don't know 4,000 people today that I could just shoot my campaign off to, so I should spend some time building up my crowd, or I should reduce the amount that I want to raise, or just spend the time building up the crowd. So there are a couple of different things. There are a couple of different formulas out there that you can use to kind of say, okay, am I ready? Is this amount ready? If not, take time to build up my crowd, or reduce the amount.
And sort of jumping off that point, there are also ways to sort of improve that conversion rate with, interesting rewards or a great and engaging video. Do you, speaking on the topic of rewards, do you think that every creator should use, say, early bird reward tiers? And are there any types of strategies that people should go about when they're trying to price and think of rewards that should be offered for the campaign?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest kind of checks to have in place is that make sure that you're just providing rewards that are a wow. People should be excited about them. They should feel that they're getting a great value for whatever you're offering. And different types of rewards tend to apply for different types of campaigns. But if you can stick within your skill, or within your things that are related to your product. And let me give you an example. There was this great campaign out of Hawaii. I think at the time, maybe in 2012, it generated the largest sum of funds raised for a rewards campaign out of Hawaii, and it was for this guy who created skateboards, and they were influenced by the old kind of Hawaiian surfer type of culture. Beautiful boards, right? And so his boards were several $100s. So in order for him to develop rewards that everyone could afford, you don't want to just offer one reward, even if it's just your product necessarily, for $300, but so that everyone can contribute. He didn't do necessarily like just a branded T-shirt, or a branded mug, or put people's names on his website, which some of those can apply, some of those can be very good. But what I really loved about his campaign is he works with wood to create these boards. So what he did was he created other things out of the boards, or out of the wood that he used for the boards. He created other things out of them to provide as rewards. So for example, even like a mobile phone like cover, or like
cool.
Yeah, even like a journal, or a keychain. And so like the keychain is it's a beautiful wood, and he created this mini skateboard, and it's engraved, and it's like the quality of his work, his handcrafted work, everyone could get a piece of it, whether you were spending $20 or $300. And that I find to be one of the best ways to get people a piece of what you're truly about, and not just your brand, but your real creation.
That's a really great example.
Yeah, I really like that campaign.
One of the other things I've been seeing a lot is people talk about Kickstarter becoming sort of commercialized, and that larger brands who can afford to put together really slick campaigns are sort of coming to the platform. And we see that sort of in the videos, that some are even beginning to look like commercials or infomercials. I just sort of want to get your take on, regarding the video, should it be sort of that caliber of work? Is it okay if you just are, have sort of like a low-grade amateur video? What are some of the do's and don'ts on that point there?
Yeah, in creating a successful video, it's not so important that you have something that's fancy or a high production. What's more critical is that even just the basics are good lighting, so people aren't seeing silhouettes of your face. Good sound, people can understand what you're saying throughout the entire video, and you don't have like the air conditioning unit behind you going on, which can be picked up very easily in a video. And viewers quickly can get irritated. They can pick up the littlest things that you might not see otherwise when creating the video. So great sound, and then also great focus. Just making sure that what you want them to see is clear. Those three basic things, they're fundamental things that everyone should have. Everyone can do. You might have to get maybe an extra mic or something like that, but those are fundamental things. In addition to that, making sure that your story is coming across concisely and it's compelling. It's an engaging story. Those are the fundamental things. So whether you're doing it on your own computer, which people have done very successfully, or you're hiring an agency to help you build it, to create it, it doesn't matter. It should, though, also stick within your brand. So if you remember perhaps the Ubuntu campaign that came out on Indiegogo and raised $33 million, it's still the largest campaign that had the largest funding goal ever that's out there. They ended up only raising $13 million, but it was more of a marketing campaign for them. They chose fixed funding, right? So even though they raised $13 million, they didn't hit their $33 million goal. So they didn't get the $13 million, okay? But it was a marketing, it was potentially really a marketing campaign for them to just get out there and show their product, put this huge funding goal on there. It got a ton of attention, and their video was definitely very well done. It looked like it was very professionally done. The CEO of the company was speaking. He's got this amazing Australian or British accent. The shots are great. And the Ubuntu it's a cell phone, and it just looks beautiful, right? You could tell it's a high production, high valued piece of work for the video. But not everybody needs to do that. That's their brand. High tech, innovation, established business. But that's not necessarily the amazing, innovative inventor who's at home creating their piece of art or their product or whatever and getting it out for the first time.
Yeah, and sort of one of the things I've noticed too is there's still a lot of campaigns and creators who don't even have a video on their project page. And sort of one of the things that I've just sort of been thinking over is, in person, it's a lot easier to develop rapport than online. And sort of the video is just that first step to showing that, one, you're putting in the effort to actually create it and doing all those little things to sort of make it look nice. And two, you're showing people that this is something that you've worked on. You can tangibly show the prototypes, and it's a way to develop rapport with that person over the internet, which is really hard to do.
You're right. It's an invaluable tool. I think you're hitting on all of the key things. I mean, just seeing the person's eyes. Building trust, talk about rapport, building the trust with them, getting a sense of, okay, do they really seem like they're going to do what they say they're going to do with the money? And like we talked about earlier about, showing yourself in the shop or wherever you are on your computer, creating the designs or whatever. That stuff, you can't just do with one image. And it is surprising that people are still doing videos, but are still not doing videos. Excuse me. But I remember early on, Indiegogo had put out a data point that campaigns with videos raise something like 60% more than campaigns that don't. So that in itself makes me say, I'm going to create a video. Even if I have to do it myself, I'm going to freaking do it.
Yeah, definitely. I just have two other points I really want to touch on. One
Sure.
is when I was sort of first getting into the business, I had this misconception that fundraising campaigns sort of, had a linear progress, starting from zero and then going upwards. And I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions that I found, is that a lot of campaigns will have sort of an initial jump and then inactivity in the middle and then sort of a little bit of a activity towards the end.
Right.
Have you also found that to be the case? And if so, how do you advise your clients to sort of avoid that, what's called the Kickstarter slump, or the sort of the crowdfunding period in the middle where it's lagging a bit and hard to maintain interest?
Right. It's funny. We do find that commonly on campaigns, and even though from the very beginning, we talk about every single day, this is a job, right? This is something you'll be spending at least a couple hours on every single day, even after the campaign's launch, doing outreach. But there just seems to be this natural excitement and energy at the beginning, and that could even come from, we know that the crowd gets excited at the launch of a campaign and at the end, right? The most excited seems to happen. So it may not be something that we can control so much, but the consistent input into the campaign, the energy, lining up articles throughout the campaign, not just in the beginning, but throughout the campaign, doing interviews throughout the campaign, just trying to consistently generate your own energy around this, your own media to create energy around this is the best way that we've found to try to reduce that slump, but it seems to just naturally want to happen.
One of the interesting things, I was doing an analysis of the Reading Rainbow campaign. They obviously have a huge audience there, huge base. I noticed that they were, every week, launching also new reward tiers as well, which is something I hadn't considered prior to their campaign. So that's another tip I've found, at least.
Yeah, I think in general, it's what are people excited? How can you get people excited? What new idea? Is it a new reward? Is it a new feature that you can add on? Is it just keeping up that creativity and energy throughout the campaign? I mean, this is marketing, right? This is what marketers do. They're like, okay, well, how can I put something out there to create a reaction? And we are all, whether you're consultants or you're running your own campaign, we all should make that a top responsibility to, what are these creative things that we can be doing throughout the 30 or 45 days of the campaign.
Mm-hmm. And sort of when you're in that period, are there any sort of core or key software tools or websites that you use? Like, for example, I know that I use KickTrack a lot to research similar campaigns during the preparation phase, and I use Buffer a lot to schedule social media. Are there any tools that your company uses in the management phase of the campaign?
Yeah, so we do a lot of stuff with social media. So we're actually looking for people who are talking about our product or idea beforehand. So we'll be spending a lot of time looking for forums, or even like in subreddits. We find is a great place to do a keyword search. You can find a subreddit that's dedicated to your particular product. So for example, I mentioned the bicycle company that we're working with. They're producing 2 products. Well, I got to find out what people are talking about these products and these types of products, and what do they say about it, and who cares about it, and who are the bloggers that are posting articles that people are sharing about it. So we tend to find that subreddits are really good for that. I also look on different sites like Topsy to find out what are the top tweets, who's tweeting the most popular tweets. We also use Hootsuite and Clout. I tend to like Clout quite a bit, although they have changed over the last several months their functionality, which not everybody's happy with, but they still have some of their key features such as the scheduling, and now you can, they recommend what are the best times for you to post. They recommend people to include in your posts. They even recommend articles now that, so you don't want to always be talking about yourself, right, when you're reaching out to people, but you want to share other trending topics related to yours that are going on and provide input on them. That's a good way to get exposure and to build your audience. So Clout now provides suggestions on articles that maybe your audience is really interested in, but not everyone has seen yet. So that can be a good, so Clout can be a good tool. Yeah, so we use kind of a variety of different things, and we end up using Google Docs a lot, actually, just to kind of manage, create spreadsheets and manage, you know, we have like an editorial calendar. Okay, well, what information, you know, here's a month, so for that month, what are we going to be posting or communicating about, or when do we want an article to be posted that someone's writing up on us? You know, having that all scheduled beforehand and throughout the campaign, really, it helps us to stay on target, to meet goals of getting exposure, and just communicate within the team on what's going on.
Great. Two other tools I've used, at least for project management, are Basecamp and Trello. Trello is a bit of a newer one, but Google Docs, I think it's a great, you know, inexpensive way. You know, Basecamp's, I think, like $20 a month or something like that. So those are some good ways to manage it. So one of the questions I'll get a lot, people that are approaching, when should someone approach you for your consulting services? Is there a certain amount of legwork that they should have already put into the campaign? How can you help them, and where should people find you on the web?
Sure. So I would recommend, as if I was doing my own campaign, I would want to talk to.
Oh.
Are we good? Are we still on? Hey, Sal?
I think it just froze a little bit there. Yeah, we're still on. It froze a bit there.
Okay, yeah. So I'll step back.
It froze a little.
Okay. So I remember what we were talking about. You had asked me, okay. So what I would recommend, even if I was doing my own campaign, is just doing a search on, just do a Google search. Also, LinkedIn is a really good place, but just do searches on people who are crowdfunding consultants who provide crowdfunding or are crowdfunding agencies, and just reach out to them, honestly, and just start figuring out what information they'll share with you. Start asking questions, you know, and figure out kind of just how consultants work. I can tell you how we work. So people approach us at all different phases of their project, of their campaign, whether they just have an idea, and they think they've heard about crowdfunding, or they've only heard about Kickstarter, and they're like, oh, well, they want to figure out if that'll work for them, or it could be they've already launched and they need some help with it. So we provide a couple levels of service. One is hourly consulting, right? So anyone can come to us and say, hey, you know, I want to hire you for a couple hours. That's all that my budget I can afford, and I've already launched, and something's not working. I don't know what's right with what's going on with my campaign. Can you take a look at it? You know, it could be that. Or if it's earlier in the stages, where it could be that they want help actually building a campaign and running it, we will do that in partnership with them. So we don't just take over a campaign and then we'll give you updates. You are fully involved. But in order to do that, our fee structure is a retainer plus a percentage of funds that are raised. There are agencies out there, consultants out there, that will do a percentage, solely a percentage of funds that are raised, and they could be worth, you know, hiring. Just ask a lot of questions and figure out, based on what your needs are and what your budget is, you know, what it is that will work best for you. You know, we're not always a good fit for everybody, so it's really kind of figuring out on your end too, you know, who will best work with you.
And the elements of the services that you'll provide.
What was that?
Run down those really quickly. The elements of the services, whether that's video, copywriting, or marketing.
Sure. So we provide a comprehensive package of services. So we'll go from education, you want to know what crowdfunding is, you want to know which type of crowdfunding is right for you, all the way through to we create a project plan that either we may use to build your campaign for you, or we hand off to you. So it could be, you know, what do you need to do every day before, during, and after your campaign. We also will create the messaging, we'll create the video, So we'll get a videographer on site if needed, and we'll do all the editing and fully produce a video. We will create the campaign page. We will create the rewards. We'll set up really everything on the site, but we'll even, again, it's best for us to have you engaged. So yes, we may be building stuff for you, but we really want your input throughout the process. And then there's also the PR part, right? PR and outreach. So we create a social media and PR plan that also includes, so that includes, who do we need to reach out to? Do we know who those people are? Do we need to do research on them to figure out who they are? And then actually reaching out to them and engage them to get them to write about the campaign or about you or whatever the hottest topics are about your idea.
Okay. And what would you say is the best way for people to, find out more information about you or your company?
Sure. So we have a lot of information on our website. That's crowdfundingstrategy.net. You can also reach out to me on Twitter at my handle is crowdfundstrat, or just send me an email. I'm happy to answer any questions. That's Leigh, my first name, Leigh, at crowdfundingstrategy.net. Or perhaps they can reach out to you, and you can tell them to reach out to us, or whatever is the easiest way. But we're open to questions. Again, we're about finding a good fit, so we need to have some dialogue up front and make sure that we can be a good fit for whoever reaches out to us.
Great. Okay. And do you have any other points you'd like to share? I saw you guys were running some classes too on your website. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, so we actually do a number of workshops. We partner with some of the office sharing spaces, such as the Impact Hub, and so we're doing workshops to just help people understand, again, what crowdfunding is, if it's right for them. We do get into how to use social media and other methods to build your crowd, so just trying to help people get the information they need to make the decision on whether they should use crowdfunding or not. I'm really excited about what crowdfunding is offering to people in regard to not only getting funded, but that we, the people, can vote on what gets out there. It's not just, it's not just whether you can get the right contract with the manufacturing firm at the right price or whatever, but it's that people can say, hey, I want to help you get it out there, and we can all be a part of it. I think that's really freaking cool. So I think, vet your idea up front. Get some really good, candid feedback from people that you can trust. Do your research. Reach out to me. Reach out to you, Sal. People who are involved in the space, have been for a while, and just share your ideas up front. Do your homework, and prepare to launch that campaign. Again, if it's right for you at this time.
Well, I think that's a great note to end on. And thanks so much for sharing. Some of these awesome tips. I'll definitely encourage people to reach out to you, and also provide some text after the video so that people can browse through some of the major points. So thanks so much for having this discussion with me, and yeah, I look forward to watching you guys' progress and some of the more events that you're going to put on. So,
I appreciate that, Sal. It was good talking to you.
Yeah, definitely. Nice talking.